Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Total Celebrity Show. I'm the host of the show, Neil Haley. You can go to my website, TotalTutor.net, for more information. Twitter, TotalTutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley, Instagram, TotalTutor, Pinterest, Neil Haley, and Google+, and also on Periscope at TotalTutor. And 2 days into the beginning of the year, in a lot of ways, opening up January 4th, and some people decided to go to work today. Yesterday, they took off. And let's see everything coming up in front of me, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, what a crazy Tuesday. By the end of the day, at about 1 o'clock in the morning, who knows? But I know this guy's a hard worker, so I'm excited to welcome to the program actor Paul Cram. Paul, thanks for calling, man. And interesting. What'd you say, Paul?
Oh, I said absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I want to kind of go into the story of you as an actor so I can kind of get things. There's so much about you. There's a variety of different things. Have no idea what direction we're going to go, and that's what I love in a conversation like this. So, Paul, tell me how you started as an actor.
How I started? Oh, absolutely. I started kind of a long time ago when I was a little kid. I started doing, like plays and different community theater kind of things, and once I was in high school and stuff like that, I was like, gosh, I really like this. So I chatted with my mom a little bit, and she was like, well, if you want to be an actor, you're going to have to really figure out how you're going to do it. So so I went to the library, and I got, every book I could find on, the subject of acting, and read it and studied up on it, and that's kind of how I got started in it all.
Interesting. So that got a book. That just shows your author, too. Got a book. Not everyone acts. I'm going to get a book. So when I became a professional wrestler, Paul, I didn't say, I would say I'm an intellectual now. I don't know how much of that. I was an athlete. I didn't say I'm getting a book on pro wrestling to become a pro wrestler. So not everyone in acting says, I'm going to become an actor, so let me get a book and read it. So we see that probably school was an important thing for you, Paul, or your family saw it as important to say you're going to pick up a book.
Yeah,
first, right?
my family thought that as important, yeah. And I do find myself doing that through life, and it's served me pretty well, just as far as, if I don't know something, I can go to the library, and, that's at least a starting point for that. So that's been infused into me very much. So, yeah. And it's been a good ride. It's been fun. I've enjoyed I enjoyed what I learned in those books, and I think I saved myself a lot of heartache and stuff with some of the acting stuff.
Because you learn certain things of what not to do, Paul. Not to
exactly what not to
everything
do
in the world, and just say, oh, by the way, I'm going to be this superstar actor. I'm going to get on a major show. So all I'm going to do all day is sleep, and then wake up, and then I'm going to, and my publicist and my assistant are going to do everything for me, and I don't have to worry. Just checks are going to come in the mail, right, Paul?
That's exactly the opposite of how it works, but yes.
That doesn't work for anybody except a few people. And when I interview them, I want to go and strangle them and say, come on now. The way I was able to do my radio show is being up at 4 o'clock in the morning and having to go to work at 6 o'clock. Saying, well, what the heck? I didn't sleep at all. I couldn't do that now. I mean, 6 years later and 40 and soon be 43, I could do that in my 30s. I sure as heck can't do that in my 40s. But I had to do that, and it was nothing glamorous at all. So
oh my gosh, yeah. There's a lot of
lot
of work that goes into it. A lot of even with that prep work on my part, there's just a lot of work with the acting stuff. As far as there's just a lot of rejection, too. You get a door slammed in your face probably 10 times before you get one opened as far as auditioning and different things like that. So you kind of have a little bit of thick skin, too, when you're kind of going into things. But it can be really rewarding, too.
Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, your first acting gig. How did it come about? Yeah, I'm sure that through reading a book, Paul, you said, okay, what I'm going to do is get myself some headshots. I'm going to make sure that I'm a character actor. I'm going to find out what types of things I can get started, probably take acting classes. Those things are definitely on the list first, right?
Yeah. Headshots and some acting classes, and fortunately for myself, like some networking groups where I was able to talk to some other actors that were already working, and kind of chat with them to see what agents in the city that I lived in were reputable and not scam artists, and what who the casting directors were, and different things like that. And the ball was slow rolling at first for myself as far as like booking work, because there was a lot of I remember when I first started sending out headshots, to agents and stuff, and I'd get called in to interview with them to see if they wanted to rep me, as an actor. I remember sitting in some of those, and the agents would literally be like, well, gosh, can you put on like 80 pounds of muscle and then we could actually do something with you? And just random comments like that where I was like, gosh, like I'm this, skinny, blonde-haired, 6 foot tall actor guy. Me to put on 80 pounds of muscle would take a lot.
Who would said something like that to you? That's crazy.
It is crazy. I get years later now. I get what they're doing. They're wanting to make money, and that's kind of the end of that's what their point is. And
so
I think
how do agents make money? Here's a good question: how do agents make money? If they don't get you booked, they don't make money, right? Or is there a fee to have an agent?
No, there should not be a fee to have an agent. No, that's the age-old scam.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So when they see you in the mall and say you're going to be perfect for this job, don't trust them. Say, but it's going to cost you $3,000 for headshots and all these different things. Remember
run the other way.
Your television, they like Goldberg's when they said you're perfect for this, or I remember there was this other Saturday Night Live gig. Oh, the only thing of Donald Trump that was funny was when the guy decided to pay Donald Trump all this money to perform these songs. I don't know if you saw this on the Saturday Night Live skit, and that he was the most horrible singer in the world, and he kept pouring in all this money. I don't know if you saw that skit. That's probably the only funny skit, because people are eating dinner and he's playing his songs and everyone's looking like, who the heck is it? This is the worst thing I ever heard in my life. Did you ever see that?
I did not see that, but that's hilarious.
You'll have to see that. So that's the kind of thing that's run away. Have somebody professional, reputable to say you're worth something, so the agent is out there trying to make work, and if they're saying they're going to different casting agents saying, you know what we're looking for is 6 foot, 240 pounds, ripped, and, and that's where you were going through. And what time was that? Was that like the 90s, Paul? When was that? When they were looking
that would have been
in
the 90s. Yeah, when I was first
right after the Hulk Hogan days and everyone on steroids and all gigantic.
Exactly.
There was the acting. Everyone wanted that kind of look.
Well, and I know your listeners can't see me, but I'm a string bean. I am a skinny guy, and it's laughable now when I think about that, because that just is not going to happen. But fortunately for me, I was like, I do have something to bring to the table, and it's not this muscle-bound, body or anything like that. But I was like, I do have a quirky look, and I can do some comedy, and I can do some drama, and I'm not a bad actor. I can bring some things to the table, and I felt good about that. So I actually started to go directly to casting directors without an agent.
Wow.
And the casting directors they really started to respond well to me, and they started, I remember some of the first projects that I booked were, just local commercial type things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And there was a couple of movies too that were coming through town at that point in history, and I started reading for those. And once I started reading for those and started booking small parts on, the commercials and some of the films, agents' heads turned so fast, and they started to pay attention to me.
Great.
Without all those strings of like, oh, you need to do this, that, or the other thing.
Because you built a resume that they can sell.
Exactly. Yeah, I started to have stuff on my resume, and they took me more seriously too, because it wasn't like, oh, here's just somebody with zero experience. It was like, no, he's got experience. And I should say too, like in the midst of all of that, I wasn't sitting on my laurels waiting for somebody to call. I went to like the local community film schools and knocked on those doors, and I was starting to build up my resume by doing work on student films. Like, I think over the years I've done more than probably 100 student films, and that's not an exaggeration. Like, I have done tons and tons of student film work, and it's kind of been a bit of a training ground.
That's the training ground instead of always going to acting classes. So you build something on your resume. Acting classes are great, but to get to be in a performance or a film that has a director, has a producer, has to go on screen at one point in time, it's a great experience. So then when you finally do go in front of people to read, you said, well, I've done this performance and I've done this. And it's not like, okay, in an acting class where it's a lot of robotic things. This is really where you're developing a character and growing through it.
I love acting classes. I think they're fantastic. But I also think that acting classes are very safe. It's a very safe environment, as it should be.
Exactly. Not when you're putting yourself on film. Yeah.
And when you're on set working with, a crew of, student films are smaller crews, but yeah, like 12 people, it's like all of a sudden the rubber meets the road, and it kind of shows a little bit of what you're made of when you have to perform and you have to do it, and it's not for you not paying for the class or anything like that. You're actually putting yourself out there. So I think I learned a lot. I know some people that have done student films and absolutely hate them because it's a grueling process to work with, because they're students too. They're learning their craft as well. So there is that, but it's a great learning experience, and it was one of those foundations that I was able to build a lot of my start on, and it served me well to get me where I'm at today, which is I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the projects and things I'm working on lately. Some films and more recently some audiobook type stuff.
So I want to go into, always interested is, again, the stuff you're doing on your own to make money. Let's applaud that. But it's always interesting to hear about some of your brushes with greatness, like some of the films you're doing in certain smaller roles. People have to understand in acting, you constantly are a working actor. The biggest, newest shows, a lot of them were just like yourself and got that final break. Like Star Wars, the people picked for Force Awakens, a lot of them were not well known, right? They got their break. So in this business, it's constantly boom, boom, boom. You're not out, and it's great and working all the time. However, you can't be waiting for that big ticket, or you could be waiting a long time.
You'd be waiting a long time. And I have some friends, too, that are actors, and they do kind of what you're saying, which is they wait. And the problem that I have with that is that if I sit and wait, and if, like, similar to them, if you wait and you don't do anything, you'll probably never do anything, because that big break, I just can't see. I can't see somebody casting you if you haven't been working, if you haven't been constantly sharpening yourself. You can look at almost any other industry, and I would think kind of the same thing. If you're a lawyer and you never practice law, I doubt you're going to get picked for that high-profile case.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
They're waiting for that big break and then forget it. So let's talk about, Paul, what was your biggest break so far in your career? Your book, and also the new film that you pitched to me that you're out on. That's probably already been out, but we'll talk about that as well. So let's first jump to the let's talk first about the some of the major roles that you had, like your big break. What was it?
Sure. Well, the most recent film that I was in that shot last summer, I have a nice little supporting role in it. The film is called Wilson, and it stars Woody Harrelson. So,
huge fan of Woody, especially White Man Can't Jump is one of my favorites. Thank you, baby.
Yes. Yes, yes. And my nieces and nephews were so excited because they were like, "Oh my gosh, that's Haymitch from the Hunger Games."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at me. I'm talking white man can jump. You can tell my thing. I interviewed someone from the Hunger Games this year, Eugenia Bondurant. So I interviewed her a couple weeks ago. Right before this movie
I love
out.
it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. So Haymitch. And I guess like that for myself that was a really nice thing to have on my resume, and we'll see what happens with the film. It probably will be edited and out hopefully next summer. We'll see.
And what was can you talk about your role at all, or are you allowed to talk about your role at all?
I can't say too much about it. No, not yet.
But it's one of the bigger roles that you would say this is perfect for my resume.
It's one of the. In the context of the movie, it's I want to say it's a smaller role, but most of the roles in the film, other than Woody's and Laura Dern's, the rest of the roles are fairly quick. So in that context, I say it's kind of a quick part, but most of the parts in the film are quick. But yeah, I wish I could tell you a lot more, but I can't say too much yet. Not yet.
Well, that's why you always have another opening to come back on once you find out how it looks after it all comes out. Now, what other ones would you say are bigger roles for you?
I have done a ton of like independent type films, a lot of movies that go straight to Netflix and go to Redbox and that kind of stuff. I've worked with some really nice actors. Cillian Murphy in the movie Peacock. It was kind of an under the radar movie, but Susan Sarandon and Ellen Page were in it. And it's always interesting to me because I mentioned some of these movies, and like even my dad is like, well, these movies they're indie, they're not mainstream, they're not in the movie theaters. And it's an interesting game, and it's an interesting world when you work in indie stuff because little things pop up here and there. Because whenever I mention, Susan Sarandon and Cillian Murphy, people are like, I know who that is, but how come I've never seen that movie?
Right, because a lot of them are doing these films because they know that if it gets an award, then they're back out in the mainstream again, and they'll get a better part. Because it's not guaranteed that, and that's where the business has changed, is an independent film can become a gigantic hit. So why don't we take a chance as the big star, kind of like in pro wrestling, Paul, where when I was wrestling, I was in the main event against top guys that were top 20 years ago. And they always wanted to make some money. And there was an opportunity that the house could draw, and they could make a lot of money off merchandise. So these people take their shot instead of not working at all.
I love it.
Correct?
It's totally the same. Yep, it's the same idea.
I mean, I understand the business because of pro wrestling. But let's jump to some stuff you're known for as I pull your IMDb up, GV up. And so first of all, it was like 13 hours in a warehouse, stealing summer
I had one of those lead roles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A lot of those again, are kind of like the indie film type stuff. 13 Hours in a Warehouse is a horror movie that it went straight to like Redbox. It was in Redbox, and I think it was on Netflix for a while. But yeah, and I had one of the lead roles in that, so that was that's a fun thing about.
Not everyone that's a working actor ever gets a lead role, so you got to pat yourself on the back for that one, Paul.
This is true. Yeah, and people in a lot of these films too, people can find still on, like stream them on Amazon and stuff like that.
That's what I talk about. That's why you need social media. You always got to push your social media because any of your content is still new content if you can promote it. And I don't know if you have 50% of people purchase or do anything on buying these DVDs or different things. So it's always a great way to kind of put yourself out there that you're still working, even if you're not working for a couple months. So, check out me in 13 Hours in a Warehouse. And then the way this business is becoming is the YouTube generation. It's coming, the social media generation. Somebody sees us that really likes us and they're deciding to start their own film and they have a lot of money to spend. I'm calling Paul. So that's where you always going to look at your stuff never dies. So Dawning, Stealing Summer, and 13 Hours. You have 54 credits, by the way. And look at me pulling this out. But again, I see Peacock, which you brought up about. But so your bigger roles are at the top in IMDb. That's how it works, doesn't it? IMDb. You're kind of
sort of, yeah. Yep. And some of the filmography stuff, some of the more recent stuff is some of it's listed as completed, but it's not. It has not come out yet.
Right. I see. I just see some of their shorts and different things. I mean, you have a great look. That's where I see. I don't know why. I think that you look like another actor too. Had people thought you based on your headshot, especially on IMDb? You look that people said that you remind you of.
I think it might be a build thing too, but I get a lot of what's that actor? Edward Norton. I get referred to a lot, and I think it might be because I have a little bit of very similar frame that he does.
Right.
And I also get there's that there's a few actors that I get mentioned as. Who are you thinking of?
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of what show. It was one of those teenager type pictures. I can't think of who it is. When I saw your picture, when you sent the pitch, I said, who does this remind me of when I Googled you and all that? So,
I love it. I love it. Well, actually, one of the first films that I ever worked on that was a bigger Hollywood production was one of those teen horror movies with Edward. I want to say Eddie because that's how I knew him. But Edward Furlong, the kid from Terminator 2, he did a fun little movie, and that would probably have been my first kind of quote unquote big break, like in Hollywood as far as getting the wheel of grace in that city.
Back, and try to look at it specifically on it. Again, it shows earlier in 98, 99. I'm just trying to see which ones are well known to me. Yeah.
If any of these are known to you, absolutely.
But so you never know. But again, the ones you say known for, stick with that, right? But that's great. Those roles and trying to do that, and they went to Red Box, but the experience that helps in your acting thing. And I'm always educating people in the fact that it's not the easiest thing, but Paul could be called for the third Star Wars film. We don't know. Maybe Paul for the next Han Solo. We don't just never know. As a younger, I don't know. So we always got to constantly be on guard because you never know in those opportunities. So let's talk about the book then. And so this is the other thing that you brought out. And so the author and you, tell us a little bit about that.
And I started doing because I love to. I mean, obviously, I love to read because that's kind of how I even started our conversation. So reading has always been a high priority with myself. So I started to get like voiceover work a few years back, just for doing like local commercials on the radio and things like that. And I got really curious about like audiobooks, and so it's something I've kind of been nosing around with for the past couple of years. And I started voicing, started auditioning for some audiobook things here and there. And I get to say last year now that we're in 2016, but last year was the year that I did a 10-hour narration of a sci-fi audiobook called The Face Stealer. And that was crazy exciting for myself because voicing a 10-hour audiobook is quite the chunk of dialogue.
Through doing that, are you looking at doing some more voiceover work from voicing the audiobook? Is that another thing you're looking to kind of expand to?
Am I looking to do? Wait, say that one more time.
Voiceover, more voiceover work after this.
Well, I've been doing a lot of voiceover work, yes, and that was kind of what got me curious about the more of the audiobook world. There's a lot of voiceover work, for selling things like butter at a grocery store and things like that. For myself, though, doing a longer format kind of voice work is more interesting. I guess it's way more interesting for me to tell a longer story, as opposed to doing just a voiceover. Yeah.
So, anything else new to report with you, Paul? Anything else to update, or you can't say now?
At the moment, no, but if people want to check out what I've got going on, they can always check out paulcramactor.com, and from there launch into, there's tons of, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and just tons of different places that we can connect on different social media outlets.
All right, well, Paul, best of luck, and let me know when when the film's coming out and stuff so you can come on and promote it for a few minutes. All right, sound good?
Absolutely. That sounds great. Thanks so much for having me. It was good to chat with you.
It was great to chat with you as well. And always look at any of the stuff you have out there that you can link to or different things. It's perfect, tweetable stuff, Facebook stuff to get out there still to your fans and followers so that people remember and say, oh, I want to check out Paul on this because you have a lot of work that you can continue to promote because I know it's out there somewhere. Okay?
It definitely is. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
All right, take care, Paul. Total Celebrity Show. We'll be talking soon. Take care, everyone.